How do I know if I have a good business idea? That's such a good question. It's great when you're sitting here kicking around ideas with people and some of the questions they have. How do I know if it's a good business idea? I remember when I was coming up and I would have all of these great business ideas. And they really were good business ideas. Let's start this company. We should do really well. Let's start this company. We should do really well. I never could get any of these big dogs to invest in me. And I was always like, man, I don't understand this. This makes a lot of sense. And as I started being in the world where, I'm sitting on other boards, fighting real CEO problems. Like, I remember I used to call myself a CEO when my company was doing 2 or 3 million a year. I had no idea what it was like to be an actual CEO where you're fighting, you're raising capital, you're fighting with lawyers, you're working with lawyers, you're working with banks. You're trying to work with the city and the federal government. Like, it's a totally different level to be a CEO of a couple $100 million company or a few $100 million company than it is, your small, under $10 million company, which is why that CEO never gets the respect on the mainstream. It used to drive me nuts, but I totally get it now. It makes a lot of sense because the fights you have to go through are completely different fights. But the way that I see investors looking at it to invest is if they can't make 100% on their money, they're out. So if you need $1 million, they need to make $2 million. They need to make their $1 million back and make another $1 million. And then you still have to be able to make money, right? That's really hard to do now. So when I look at it, I'm like, okay, what kind of business owner do you want to be? Do you want to be the business owner that lives off your business because you can? Right? You can live off your business. You can live off your business debit card. And, you're probably going to make $100,000, $150,000 a year. You can absolutely do that. But if you want something that is built, scalable, able to be sold at one day or maybe publicly traded one day, then everything has to change in your approach to making it work. And so that becomes key. That becomes key on what you're going to focus on. But I would still say, like, if it's not going to make 100% return, you're out. So I see all these little thrift shops and stuff. No, you're not going to make money off that. Where would you make money? Little Caesars, Wendy's. Like, you make money off of those fast food restaurants. Where else would you make money? Real estate. There's lots of places you can make really good money, but there's also lots of places that, like, you're going to do a business and you're essentially just going to be an employee to everybody else, and you're not ever really going to make money. You will have a little freedom, though, because you'll be able to take days off that you want. You'll be able to take vacations. You'll be able to buy kind of a couple of new cars. But if you truly want to succeed, and that's what you want to do, you need to go down the path. You need to start setting it up correctly. You need to set up your company correctly, your banking correctly, your team correctly. And it is a lot of work, and you need to be prepared that you have already worked through that in your head, at least to an 80% solution, and you have the ability to go out and execute now. And yes, like I said, 80% solution, like, you got to the base of the mountain, now you got to start climbing the mountain. Well, that's okay. At least we got to the base of the mountain. So 80% solution. If you make a bad decision, make one to fix that one. If one of those is a bad one, make one to fix that one. Before you know it, you'll have everything fixed. You won't have any more questions, or you won't have any more mistakes, because you'll just be good at what you're doing. So how do I do the math to make sure that I'm making enough to take on an investor or build this company? That's really hard to do. You start with a market research and say, hey, in my area of town, in my area of expertise, what is my competition? If you have too many people doing what you know how to do, maybe that's not a good spot for you, because they've probably been there a long time and have a very good reputation. So that's the first thing that you got to look at that is really, really tough. How do I make sure that I'm making my money back for my investors? The best way that I can say that is I want to be diverse. I don't want to be stuck on one product, but I need to make sure that my product has essentially a 100% profit margin. 80% is really the number, but let's say I have a $5,000 piece. I want to sell it for 10, right? That's 100% profit. As long as I have that, and really 80% will get you there, but as long as I have that and I have multiple orders and good enough customer service, I'm going to be solid and be able to continue living through whatever I'm living through while I'm working my way and making my company more agile, corporate organized, corporate hygiene, so on. You're not going to just be able to go and just raise capital right out the gate. That's going to be really hard to do. First off, you got to have a network of people that will help you to raise the capital. And so I've got a network of about 400 people that They raise capital amongst each other. And you have to understand that when you raise capital and you take on capital, that is a real dog. It's almost like a lion eats dog world, not a dog eat dog world. They are lions and they come and swoop you up. So you've got to make sure all your stuff is in order. How do you do it where you're saying, hey, I've got this idea that we can make the money. Let's go raise the money first versus us actually proving ourselves? That's getting a little harder because of Shark Tank, but you can still do it. But the truth is that the investor buys you. They buy me. They buy my confidence. They buy my experience. They buy what I've been able to win in fights. They buy what I've been able to do when we're not fighting. They buy what they know is me to be able to get any job done. That's what they're buying me for that. So you need to be charismatic enough, detailed enough, have the work ethic enough that when they meet you, they absolutely can't say no to you because you do everything that you're supposed to do and you do it well. That's what an investor is looking for. They want to know that you can do the job and they're not looking at your partners. They're not looking at anything else. You're just literally having their trust. Sometimes that trust might come back and bite you because they're coming with a vengeance when they come. So you got to make sure you understand everything you're doing and why you're doing it before you do it. And guys, this is the most important part for the decade of grinding. If you go back to the life chart, I told you no matter what you do, you're not getting out a decade of grinding. This is where that grinding comes in. You're going to be listening to experts on both sides. You're going to be able to hash it out more clear in what it is that you think you want and what they want. Every investor that I've ever seen, they don't believe in your business because every business will work at some level. They have to believe in you. They have to believe in your story and your passion. You have to believe in the vision. You have to cast the vision. You have to be prepared with the vision. You have to be able to articulate the vision, and you have to set the culture inside the company. So when an investor invests, they're investing in you. They're saying, I believe that you specifically will not fail because for a variety of reasons. You know, that decade of grind that we had to put in, I can go back and I can say, hey man, I grinded for a decade here, here, and here. Now you can see that I was never going to quit. Now, I've actually probably grinded for 2 decades. You can see that I just don't quit. I just keep moving forward. That is what they want to see. They're buying you. They're buying your story.